Leonid Karpin learned to think in long corridors. His coach in Leningrad had forced him to play blindfolded as a boy, walking him through hallways where doors stood for squares and the click of boots marked the rhythm of turns. At 47, a former world champion and now a mild-mannered trainer with a single gray-eyed daughter, he still pictured choices as corridors, some brightly lit, some already dark, some leading, a tiny, alarming fraction, to places with no way back. The letter that arrived in late December led straight into the deepest darkness he had ever felt. It was written by hand, in sepia ink. Grandmaster Karpin. A private tournament of 7 rounds will be held on the night of the first full moon of the new year. Your presence is not requested. It is required. A car will meet you at the Zurich Hauptbahnhof. In return for your attendance, you will receive the answer to any single question. There was no signature, only a wax seal showing a stylized rook whose crenellation suggested the points of a crown. Inside the envelope, tucked behind the letter, lay a single white pawn made of something that looked like ivory, but felt oddly warm, almost pulsing against his palm. Leonid considered what his late wife Irina would have said, an obvious prank. Toss it. But he also thought of Mila, their 14-year-old who had begun to ask whether her mother's skill as a pianist had left any trace in her. Mila's memory of Irina had softened, the edges blurring the way morning fog erases the outlines of hills. Leonid feared the day it might fade altogether. If the letter were genuine, if answers really waited, perhaps he could ask how to preserve what remained. 3 nights later, against every corridor of logic, Leonid boarded a train to Zurich. The car was waiting. It bore no plates and smelled faintly of antiseptic. The driver spoke only to confirm Leonid's name, then navigated steep switchbacks into the snow-shrouded Alps. Hours passed, the ribbon of road narrowed. Cell service winked out. At last the vehicle stopped before what appeared to be an abandoned sanatorium. Art Nouveau curves corroded by ice, windows blind with frost. A narrow set of double doors swung open, spilling amber light. Inside, everything was new. Polished oak floors, brass railings, soft electric sconces. Someone had poured money into the ruin and kept the renovations invisible to satellites. A porter in a charcoal waistcoat collected Leonid's coat and led him to a room whose walls were draped in black velvet. 6 people already waited around a circular table. Men and women he recognized from the covers of chess periodicals, each an apex predator of the 64 squares. The American prodigy, Jesse Roth. Brazil's legend, Marta Vieira. A stern Chinese woman Leonid knew only by reputation, Grandmaster Zheng Mei, rumored to memorize entire encyclopedias. 2 he could not place, but their posture, the relaxed precision of their fingers, told him enough. On a dais behind them stood the boards, 7 exquisite tables of ebony and ash, each lit from above by a single chandelier. The pieces were carved from a material that looked like alabaster shot through with maroon veins. They were beautiful in the unsettling way of preserved specimens behind museum glass. A hush fell when a tall figure in a red tailcoat crossed the room. He was bald, his skull egg-smooth, his eyes an irrelevant shade of blue. He spoke English in a calm baritone. "Welcome, esteemed minds. I am Keeper of the Rook. The tournament will follow classical time controls, though we discourage draws. The winner will receive what our order has guarded for centuries, the sum of all that has been forgotten by humankind." He lifted an hourglass the height of a child, its sands shimmering like iron filings. A single capture removes a memory. A single victory reshapes the world. The stakes, therefore, are absolute. Someone laughed. Jesse Roth, performing skepticism. "You mean we're playing for, what, trivia?" "Not trivia," the keeper said. He placed the hourglass on the center table. "Memories, 1 per captured piece. They do not vanish. They arrive here to be studied, perfected, and, when our champion prevails, bestowed." Leonid shifted. Remove from whom? Randomly. Nature is impartial. So are we. A pawn may cost a woman in Jakarta her knowledge of tides. A bishop may cost a surgeon in Lagos the recollection of his daughter's face. A queen. The keeper touched the hourglass. Erases every moment that made a person who they are. Shock cracked the room. Marta Vieira's chair scraped back. That is immoral. We won't play. You already have. The keeper extended a hand toward the boards. When you accepted your invitations, each of you placed the first pawn on the field. Declining now would return those memories unprocessed, less than shadows. Victory is the sole route to restoration. Leonid's thoughts slammed toward Mila. He reached for his phone. No signal. Roth still played the skeptic. Nice story. You expect us to buy that these are, what, living pieces? The keeper nodded. Observe. He gestured toward an assistant who brought one of the alabaster pawns. The keeper drew a slim knife, opened a shallow cut along the pawn's base. A bead of crimson, welled like sap, slid and dripped onto a silver tray. Several grandmasters recoiled. The keeper wiped the blade. We grew them from undifferentiated tissue. The blood is genuine, the mortal cost, likewise. A corridor inside Leonid seemed to lengthen without end. Yet an equally powerful instinct stiffened his spine. If this obscene game would proceed regardless, he had to win quickly, shedding the least possible blood, then demand the one question that mattered. How do I return every stolen memory? And, if that proved impossible, how do I save Mila from forgetting me? Round 1 began at midnight. Leonid faced the Argentinian, Ramirez. A satellite of cameras recorded each board, feeding silent screens above. The instant Leonid lifted his king pawn, he felt a faint flutter through the wood, as though the piece sighed. He fought down nausea, played the French defense. Solid, prophylactic. But Ramirez lashed out with a pawn break on move 11. When Leonid captured back with his e-pawn, the white pawn squirmed. A thin line of blood seeped from its base onto the pearl square. Leonid heard, or thought he heard, a woman scream far away. Above the board, one of the screens flickered to life, showing a flickering name. Meena Rao, Bengaluru, recalled first day of university. Ramirez flinched. Leonid's pulse hammered. The keeper had not been lying. Every subsequent capture triggered a similar flicker. A Dutch boy forgot his dog's name. An Alaskan fisherman lost the trick of tying a bowline. When Ramirez finally allowed a tactical sequence that cost him a rook in the game, the screen showed a Syrian father robbed of every story about his oldest son. Leonid felt each display like a punch. He won in 39 moves, losing only 3 pawns and a knight. 4 memories taken from strangers, 3 from others in place of his pieces. The last screen announced Makoto Ishimura, Tokyo, recalled the smell of winter plums. After the handshake, Ramirez slumped, whispering apologies to the bleeding forms lying on his half of the board. Assistants in sterile gloves carried the pieces away on velvet cushions. Leonid stumbled to a corridor bathroom and vomited into a sink. When he straightened, Meijung stood behind him, her eyes rimmed red. "Low casualty play?" she asked softly. He nodded. "You and I will have to do better than that." She leaned closer. "There is a pattern. The Keeper's machine chooses future victims from those emotionally linked to us." Leonid's stomach plunged. "How do you know?" "My elder brother no longer recognizes me." She displayed her phone, a text chain gone abruptly silent. "He sent me a photo of us as children. He wrote, 'Who is the girl next to me?' That was after I lost my first bishop." The corridor grew colder. "I fear for my parents," May said. "And you?" "My daughter." The words felt brittle. "She's 14. May squared her shoulders. "Then one of us must win and find a way to undo this." Round 2 began at dawn. By then, one contestant had withdrawn, or tried to. They found his body in the snow outside, his memories dribbling from his blank stare. The remaining 6 played with the intensity of surgeons amputating their own limbs. Leonid adopted lines designed to constrict without exchanges. Petrov, Berlin Wall, Karo Khan. Yet chess is war. Stasis in war is myth. Blood dripped, names flickered. When Leonid's queen was threatened, he calculated 19 moves ahead and found a miraculous escape that cost only a pawn. The pawn bled like a cut child. On the screen appeared Mila Karpin, Moscow, recalled. How she lost her first tooth. Leonid's vision swam. He wanted to overturn the board, throttle the keeper, scream at the universe. But if he abandoned the game, Mila's fragment might remain trapped here forever. He steeled himself, won, and hurried to the anteroom where a single satellite phone had been provided for emergencies. He dialed Moscow. Mila answered, voice blurred with sleep. "Dad, you okay?" He forced calm. "Fine, Milaya." "Listen, you remember when I pulled your tooth with sewing thread?" Silence. Then a hesitant laugh. "Is this a joke? I've never had a tooth pulled. They all just fell out." A grain of ice lodged under Leonid's breastbone. "Right," he said. "My mistake. Sleep, my little rook." She hung up, none the wiser that a corner of her childhood lay bleeding thousands of kilometers away. That night, Leonid met May in an alcove behind the library. They spoke in whispers while cameras swiveled outside. "The boards," May said, "are wired. I saw fiber at the base. The blood is harvested into reservoirs beneath." What good does knowing that do us? If we can sever the feed, perhaps captured memories won't be stored. They'll rebound. Leonid rubbed his eyes. We'd need tools and time. "We might have both," she said. "Only 4 of us remain. Tomorrow is the semifinal. If you and I reach the final, we can negotiate a draw long enough to sabotage the system." "There are no draws," Leonid reminded her. "Not on the record," May replied. "But stalemate is not a draw. It is an impossibility for them, because it returns the pieces to limbo. I have a line that forces stalemate if both sides cooperate." High wire logic, the kind churning out of her eyes. Leonid nodded. Round 3, Leonid defeated Roth in a constrictor squeeze that cost precisely 1 white pawn. The screen read, Rachel Weiss, Tel Aviv, recalled. Final conversation with her father. The American punched the table and wept like a child. Leonid's stomach had stopped registering nausea. Numbness, he realized, was its own corridor. On the other board, May dismantled Marta Vieira with a Queen's Indian, losing nothing but her dark-squared bishop. The name that appeared froze Leonid's blood. Irina Rostova, Moscow, recalled her husband's face. Irina was Leonid's late wife. Her memories existed only inside others. If Mila forgot Leonid and others forgot Irina, what remained of their family? That night, Leonid dreamed of walking blindfolded through endless corridors smelling of iodine. Every door he opened showed Mila sitting at a piano, blank eyes staring through him, playing a melody that repeated one missing note. Semi-final. Leonid faced a wiry Turkish grandmaster, Akar. From the first move, Akar attacked like a drowning man clawing air. Leonid parried, trying to funnel heat into exchanges favorable yet light on casualties. But on move 24, Akar sacrificed a rook. Caught by surprise, Leonid miscalculated. His own rook fell, blood spattering. Screen, Mila Karpin, Moscow. Recalled the word Papa. He nearly collapsed. The board blurred. Akar advanced his passed pawn. Leonid heard the keeper's calm voice announcing time. Somewhere a corridor closed, with the fierce lucidity of a man on a ledge. Leonid saw the only chance, a rook for bishop line. That would cost 3 of Akar's minor pieces and his last pawn, followed by a mating net. More blood, but less than losing. He executed it as though his hands were pliers. Akar's captured pieces poured crimson, names scrolling, Yusuf Hamad, Cairo, recalled, love of pomegranates. Marie Dupont, Paris, recalled smell of sea. And one more, Leonid Karpin, Moscow, recalled his first kiss. Leonid felt that memory vanish, like a shutter slamming. He tried to picture Irina by the Volga embankment where it had happened. Darkness. He mated Akar on move 51. Hours later, May emerged victorious from the other semi-final. She had lost a knight and 2 pawns, and her brother no longer recalled his own name. Her face was the mask of an automaton. Only the final remained. The keeper announced it would be played in the grand hall beneath the sanatorium, an octagonal chamber whose walls resembled the inside of a Fabergé egg. At its center, a single board awaited atop a plinth of glass. Beneath the glass, visible like creatures in an aquarium, drifted hundreds, perhaps thousands, of pieces submerged in luminous fluid, each trailing a flossy umbilicus of fiber-optic cable. Their eyes, Leonid realized they had eyes, glimmered when the spotlight swept across. The keeper addressed them privately before the game.
Most impressive. Tonight one of you will claim dominion over remembrance. When you raise the champion's rook, every memory taken in this cycle will flow to you, yours to keep or to allocate. Consider that power carefully.
May met Leonid's gaze. A silent accord passed. They sat. Leonid opened with 1, NF3. May mirrored. He steered into the hedgehog formation. The plan, memorized last night, required both sides to triangulate kings, then launch an exchange that left bare kings and blocked pawns. No legal moves for either stalemate. On move 14, May captured his c-pawn, Blood Pearl. Screen, unknown, the Amazon. Recalled, Taste of Rain. The room's air tasted metallic. Camera's word. Move 22. Leonid took her A-pawn. Blood. A woman in Krakow forgot the day she married. He and May locked eyes. Stay the course. But the keeper was not a fool. On one of the upper balconies, he murmured to an assistant. A relay clicked. The board's underlighting brightened. Leonid felt a soft vibration in the squares, the electronics shifting. At move 27, just as the stalemate sequence approached, May's rook refused to move. Her fingers met invisible resistance. A trapdoor slammed in their plan. The keeper's amplified voice bloomed through hidden speakers. Forgive the interruption. Our audience expects decisive resolution. May whispered, they disabled non-capture moves for stalemate path. Leonid breathed only through his nose, mind racing. A new corridor opened, terrifying in its clarity. If he could not draw, he must still destroy the mechanism. And there was one piece he had not relied on, the king itself. He stood, surprising even himself. I resign. A gasp rippled. May's eyes widened in betrayal. The keeper smiled thinly. Unexpected, Grandmaster, yet resignation is legal. Victory to Jung Mei. No, Leonid said. I resign on behalf of the game. He seized his king, the pulsing warm king, and drove it downward with all his weight. The glass plinth cracked. Fluid gushed upward. Cables snapped, spitting blue sparks. The submerged pieces convulsed like startled fish. Instantly names flooded every screen, an avalanche of letters. Mila Karpin, Moscow, restored Irina Rostova. Moscow, restored Zheng Wei. Beijing, restored Rachel Weiss. Tel Aviv, restored. The smell of ozone filled the hall. Blood and luminescent fluid mixed, sluicing across marble. Leonid yanked out handfuls of cables. May joined him, smashing squares with the base of a bishop. Alarms shrieked. Guards converged, but slipped on the slick floor. Pieces on the board writhed, their stone veins cracking open to reveal sacks of memory, glowing like fireflies. Each burst sent nostalgia rippling through Leonid's mind. Sunlight on a river, a piano chord, the mint taste of Irina's lip balm, returning. A concussive pop extinguished the lights. Darkness. Then emergency beacons flared. The keeper was gone. Leonid and May staggered up marble stairs into the night. Snow whirled under searchlights, but in chaos no one pursued. They reached the tree line, panting clouds. May dropped to her knees, phone clutched. A stream of texts from her brother bloomed on screen. May, where are you? Flight okay? Did you beat those Europeans yet? She cried, silent tears evaporating in wind. Leonid stared east toward Russia. He dialed Mila. She answered on first ring, bright as bells. Papa, did you land a sponsorship? My tooth memory just popped into my head out of nowhere and I thought of you. He closed his eyes. Tell me about it. And she did, reciting every detail. The squeak of the thread, her terror, his goofy grin, the blood and triumph. As she spoke, Leonid felt the corridors of his mind realign from ruin into a map that led home. May rose. What now? Now, Leonid said. We ensure they never rebuild. He hefted the white king he had rescued from the wreckage. It no longer pulsed, merely inert marble. And we guard the board ourselves. Dawn tinted the mountains rose. Somewhere behind them, the sanatorium burned. Whether by accident or by the keeper's hand, they never learned. Memory, Leonid understood, was not a possession to hoard, but a pact among hearts. Break the pact, and you break the world. He started down the slope, each step away from the nightmare teaching him how to live again. And though never again would he play a tournament of renown, the corridors of his mind remained brightly lit, crowded with the footsteps of every person he had saved, Mila's laughter loudest among them.